Hello, everybody. Welcome to Telli Talks, where we talk about life, growth, relationships, and all things in between. I have a very special guest with me today, Damian Powers. He has been on Love is Blind, Perfect Match, Love After the Altar, right? So we're going to talk all about that and much more today. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, we're going to need a drink for this one.
Absolutely. So for the people that don't know your journey, tell us how you got to where you are today.
Wow. So that's, how far back are we starting with the show, or like?
However far you want to start back from.
Yeah. So a lot of people, like, they know me from reality TV, but what they didn't know is sort of like my life before. I was a theater major in high school, went to college for theater, and then dropped out of college after a year and a half because I started managing like a nightclub / strip club, which I told my parents I was just like a door guy at a nightclub at the time.
How do they feel about that when they found out the truth?
I don't know if they actually ever found out the full truth. They did now. But it was a good, I guess, a transition for management, like learning how the industry works, stuff like that. And then I became, obviously I was lead bartender and manager for that for like 2 years. And then I've literally done every job I feel like known to man. I've done house rebuilds. I've owned a landscaping company. I have done automotive work. I've rebuilt motorcycles and boats. I've done life and health insurance. I've done construction sales, car sales. So
where's your passion at the most in?
My passion most, I think, it wasn't originally reality TV, but I like that I can now be on a show and be myself. And then the world sees me. Like, they get to say, hey, like, I like you for you, or I hate you for you.
Right.
And sometimes it's down the middle, you know what I mean? But it's made me stronger because, like, I used to be just so, like, heartfelt towards individuals. Like, if somebody didn't like me, I'm like, what can I do to fix that? Mm-hmm. What can I do to change this? How can I make you happy? Even sacrificing my own happiness.
Absolutely.
So I was on dating apps back when I was like 26, 27, which, most of us still are now. And I never really met anybody on dating apps. I just swiped. I was like, oh, what field am I in? Like, who could I match with? And this was just normal little Damian, had a little private life, did my own thing, and ended up matching this girl one day on Tinder. We talked for a few weeks, really good conversations. I was like, finally somebody normal. That transitioned into following on Instagram, and I was like, wow, this girl's got like 20,000 followers. That's crazy. I can't even believe I matched her. And we started talking, and she was like, she was looking for more like a fling, like, hey, like, we can, like, do our thing, hook up, like, it doesn't have to be anything serious. And I was like, well, I'm actually looking for a relationship. I was like, you're hot, but I'm also like, I don't do one night stands. That's not my thing. So, and normally that's how those situations turn out,
Right.
And long story short, she was like, I'm actually a casting producer for this new concept. It's never been done before, about dating people without seeing what they look like.
This is the same girl that you met on Tinder.
Yeah.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, catfish,
Yeah.
And I was like, but it was hard for me to say catfish because, like, you have 20,000 followers, you're established on Instagram.
Right.
And so I was like,
it didn't say like casting director in her bio or anything?
I don't think it did, no.
That's crazy.
So I was like, okay. And then I go back in my DMs a few days later, and it's like, no, like, I'm serious, please reach out. I think you'd be great for this opportunity. And I was like, all right. I was like, only if you like FaceTime me. I was like, 'cause I don't believe this.
Right.
So FaceTime, she was legit. And then my parents were like skeptical, and they looked over everything, and my dad like ran background checks on her and the company and all this stuff just to make sure like I wasn't getting like scammed or fucked over. So went through the process and ended up getting casted for Love is Blind season 1.
So how was that experience being the first season, not knowing what you're getting into, not knowing who's behind the pod? Like, what was that experience for you in your head?
It sounded so cool. It was like, because I had finally got to the point in my life where I had a good job. I was making good money. I would go out with friends. I was traveling the world. Like, I'd started working out. So I was like, I was in great shape. You're ready for that
next step.
Yeah, but I was also like, wow, like, every time I'd go out, somebody would be like, oh, like, what do you drive? Where do you live? Oh, thanks for buying the drinks. Or you're always out of country. Like, people started to see superficialness qualities, right? And I was like, I'm looking for somebody that likes me for me. So when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, if this is true, and I go on this thing, I'm not being fucking abducted or something, right? It could be a cool opportunity. So I was like, all right, I'm going to just say screw it. And at the time I was a GM for a very large Fortune 500 company. And I had like several accounts under me. I just like signed like a Facebook like contract and a contract with the CDC. So I was doing like really big things. And I was like, I loved my job, but I wasn't complacent. I wasn't like fulfilled. And I was like, and maybe it was because I was missing somebody. So I was like, you know what? Everybody I dated in Atlanta or talked to was like, it became such a small town. I was like, this is an opportunity for me to meet somebody maybe I've never met before.
Absolutely.
Or maybe I get somebody that's exactly what I want. Or maybe it's just a bust. So I went on day one. I remember pulling up and I was like so nervous. I was like, and I'd done extra work too. I mean, I'd been on like TV shows and movies and done all this stuff. And I was like, the set life was like, I just never been Maine. So it was like weird. They're like, hey, come this way, Mr. Powers, blah, blah, blah. They're telling me all this stuff. And we were in a room and it was like 20 guys. And in this like hotel room when we meted up before we went to the actual location to film. And then they start calling names out. And I'm like, oh, fuck, they didn't call my name. Those people actually got sent home. I don't know what happened if matches didn't line up. So like 5 people got sent home immediately.
So how do they decipher or like determine, I guess, the matches that for the women and the men that are there?
So that we did, I mean, I can't tell you, like I went to like these facilities where I was on the computer for like 5 or 6 hours answering hundreds of questions. And it was like this or that and or right. And we talked to a psychiatrist and psychologist and background checks. Like the process took me like probably 2 months of just questions and paperwork and answers and dating life and sex life, everything. So I guess their operation was like the algorithm they used was like, who else has been through this that is the closest person we're bringing onto the show that you can match. Right. But you don't know who that is.
Right.
So even though the production and the psychologists, all these people have who you should end up with on the show, you could end up with somebody completely different.
Right.
So we go in and they explain the process. We walk on set, Nick Lachey, and which I knew him from 98 Degrees and stuff. And I was like, oh, it was cool. And Jessica Simpson. I shouldn't say that name. I love you, Vanessa. So I do love Vanessa. But we get on set and they're like, hey, tomorrow, guys, you're going to have your first dates, 7 minutes apiece, and you're dating 15 women. And you're never going to see what they look like.
Wow.
So,
how is that mentally coming in there? Like, oh my God, I'm about to go in and date 15 different women for 7 minutes. Like, what can you possibly ask in 7 minutes to get to know this person, to know if I want to talk to them again for another, 7 more minutes?
So it's like, yeah, it goes like 7 and then it narrows down. Like a few people get cut off. So like at the end of every day, we dated for like 16 to 20 hours a day. Like sometimes we would only get 4 hours of sleep.
That's insane.
Yeah, but it was like, you have 7 minutes, then you go back in the room, the next set of people
So you're taking notes the whole time.
Yeah, but I was up in my hotel room like the night before like we started the set, and they were telling us like, hey, like think about what you're gonna say. And I was on this little piece of paper and pen for like 3 hours just staring at it. And the only thing I wrote down was, do you like to travel? That was it. I was like, and then finally I closed and went to bed, and I was like so nervous. Everybody was. We all had anxiety because we talked about it later on. And I was like, what do I ask somebody that could potentially be my partner? And I don't even know what they look like.
And there's how many men? 20 men?
So when we went on set, it was 15
men.
So
15.
And 15 girls.
Got you. Okay.
And so day one, they call our names. We go into the rooms, and the first thing you say is, hello. And it's like, hello.
How does their voice sound? Am I attracted to their voice?
That's a big thing, right?
Right.
So now it's like all your other senses are gone, right? You lose sight, you lose smell, you lose touch, right? So you lose all the things, and all you have is hearing pretty much, right?
Right.
And voice. So I was like, you walk in, I was like, hi, and I'm like, hi. I'm like, what's up? And they're like, nothing. And then we're like, let's be honest, this is fucking weird, right?
Right,
you just,
right.
You don't know.
Has to be some type of icebreaker.
And even like this setup right here, like we have like a suede couch in there, right? With like a little mini bar. Yeah, no, I'm like, put a wall here. We'll get deep. But the coolest thing I can say about the beginning of that experience is after that first round of dates, it started to go quickly. And the girl I actually ended up with on the show, we had a horrible first date. And they didn't really air that, but I was like, I tried to pronounce her name because it was Giannina. And like, if I'm talking to you, I want to remember what your name is and like what people call you. So it's like a big first thing for me. And we just like were clashing on weird things. And I get out and I was talking to Nick and he's like, hey, if you didn't go on a date with somebody else again, who would it be? I was like, probably this G chick. Like, she just seemed like sort of like just very like shut off and quick. Which she's Venezuelan, she's an Aries, so very fiery personality. And had the next day with her and we started talking and it got like more deep and intense. The cool thing about the pods is let's say like I look at you and I'm like, wow, you're such a piece of shit, right? Or you're such a piece of shit. You can't dictate facial expressions.
Yeah, you can't.
So
yeah.
I can't tell if I'm being mad at you or if I'm joking or being kind, right? Because you can have two different versions of everything.
And you don't know how that person actually is. So like their tone of voice, you can't really determine or decipher where is it going.
Exactly. So that was the wild part.
Communication is like the key in that situation.
Yeah. So that's where it took off. And I was like, we had like just our second date was super great. And then comes our guy, he's like, hey, like if you can marry somebody from this or get engaged to somebody from this group tomorrow. I was like, Jeannie, he's like, didn't you just say that was the one person? I said, yeah, but we hit it off totally different on the second date.
Right.
We had a very deep connection, very emotional, like talked about life. And, you know, she was like always felt held down and restricted and wanted to be free. And I was like, I love that. Like, I want somebody that can just be themselves and like, you don't worry about anything else. So, and then you start to realize these other guys are dating your same girl. So then it's like, oh, they come out of the pause like, bro, I just had a great date with Giannina. I think she might be the one. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? You know what I mean? I'm like,
and how does that, like, you know, knowing that, knowing that it's like, okay, you're competing with this person, then you got to talk to this girl about this person. And when you're past the second date, how much time do you have to talk to them? Because there's obviously 14 other guys trying to do the same thing. So how do you like limit and just, I guess, make use of that time wisely to make sure you're getting that number one spot with that person?
So, like, at the end of every night, we put a list of, like, our top people from best dates to worst dates. And then they would do the same, right? So, like, I was very, like, not high in a good way on G's charts in the beginning. She told me I was, like, 5 or 6. And then it kept getting better and better. And then she started being my number one, like, every day. So it sort of balanced out where we'd get a date and more time. And I remember, like, a guy come out, like, man, like, dude, this girl's, like, she's gonna be like crazy, she's gonna be like a freak, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, I was like, my girl's totally different. And they're like, aren't you with Gina? I was like, yeah. He's like, that's what I'm talking about. I'm like, whoa. So
oh my god,
different people are bringing out different
conversations.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So one guy's being like really strong, really forward, like, yeah, like the things I would do to you, and like they're feeding back on it. I'm over here like, you're beautiful, like I would love to, like go on a fucking picnic in the middle of a field with you and look at the
you're
stars.
Serenading, and they're like, all right, when we can get down to the nitty gritty, what's going on?
But that's what it shows, what side two different people came there for too, right?
Yes,
so absolutely. I came there for love and relationships. Somebody else came there to be a fuckboy. So
absolutely.
But yeah, so that was a cool experience, and we did the pods, and then the whole end goal of that is after 9 days you get engaged without ever seeing them.
And that's 9 days. How much conversational time did you get in 9 days?
I felt like I dated these girls more than my longest 3.5, 4 year relationship in 2 weeks. So
that is crazy. So hours and hours of just talking.
At the end of it, it was like we were doing 3 and 4 hour dates a day. And then they would say, hey, if you don't want to go to bed tonight, we'll leave the pods open for late night dates. And you guys can come in here. So we were having wine. We're in the pods talking about life. I miss you. Like, I just want to hug you. I'll rip these walls down. Fuck this, like
right. And that you said 9 days.
Yeah.
So 9 days you couldn't see them, but you're talking to them for this amount of time.
Yeah,
hours and hours of a time.
Which in life, you go on a date with somebody, you're at dinner, you got the waiter interrupting you, you got you go home and tell your girlfriends or guy friends about it.
Right.
And they're looking on social media. Oh,
and there's like outside noise. It's just
all out noise.
Yeah.
We had no contact with the outside world.
That's what I was gonna say. No phones, no nothing for those 9 days.
Yeah.
And then after the 9 days, when you made your decision to want to see this person, how was your initial reaction on what the person looked like? Was it who you envisioned they looked like? Did she
So that was the crazy fact. The day of engagements, it all clicked to me because I was like, I wanted a wife and kids at like 23, 24. Like I wanted a family at a very younger age, which was unorthodox, but like I love kids. I love like a relationship and a good family life. So I went in to propose to Giannina on the 9th day, and I was super emotional. Like my heart was racing, and I walk in and I'm like, look, like I know like this has been a crazy experience, but like I can't leave here not knowing like what you look like and who you are and holding you and just like being with you. And she's like, I didn't know you felt this way about me, blah, blah, blah. And it happened to be Amber. For some reason they put me on a date with Amber when I was supposed to be going to get engaged.
It was
to
the wrong
Gianina.
person.
Yeah, so I'm like full of spilling my heart here. I'm tearing up. I'm like, fuck, I'm doing this.
But you didn't know it was Amber when you came in the pause. You thought it was Janina.
Yeah, but like Gianina had lost her voice, and which everybody calls her G. So she lost her voice a few days before, so she had sort of a raspier voice. Amber sort of had like this raspier, deeper voice. So like I was, and you have like some interference problems sometimes with the sound quality. And she's like, wait, Damian, you know, this is Damian, right? And I was like, yeah. She's like, it's Amber. And I was like, oh, fuck.
So you just poured your whole heart out to the wrong person.
Yeah. And then I was like, wow, maybe this is the wrong thing. Like I just spilled my heart to somebody else, and like I should have known, right? So let's beat myself up. Go in. I proposed to Gianina. She didn't really want to get married. She didn't believe in marriage. She just believed in a soulmate, right? Which was new to me. And then I was like, why the fuck did you come on the show? So I get down on one knee and ask Gianina to marry me, and she's like, hey, like I told you I didn't believe in marriage, blah, blah, blah. Please stand up, because I told her I was on one knee. So I stand up and I'm like, well, this sucks. I just like spill my heart out to propose this girl, and she's like, I don't believe in marriage, but I believe in you and I believe in us. So I get down on one knee and I ask you to marry me. So she got down and proposed to me.
That.
Yeah. And that was like
so how was that like goosebump feeling?
It was goosebumps, but it's also like it wanted to hit my like everything that made me a man. It's sort of like it felt like she sort of took that away for a second, because I was like, I felt like it was a man's role, but I was like, you know what, like also like how can I be mad about that? Like a girl that didn't believe in marriage is now asking me to marry her.
Right.
And day 2 in the pods, I remember all the guys were talking on our side of the house, and we were like, I was like, they're like, Nicholas was like, yeah, the girls, you can ask the girls to marry them, or they'll like they can ask to marry you. And I was like, look, I said, after dating all these girls, there's not one girl on that side that would propose to a guy. Right. And I was the only one that got proposed to by a female. So
what an accomplishment, though.
Yeah, so that was a cool experience. We saw each other for the first time, going back to your question. And when it opened and I saw her, like, I had my head down because I was like, nervous. I wasn't ready. I fell in love with a voice and a personality.
Right.
And I could not match the voice to the face. And when I saw her immediately, I was like, she's beautiful, but 1,000 things run through. Is this who I'm about to spend the rest of my life with? This is who I'm going to get married. This is who I'm going to have kids with, right? This is
that first initial, because I feel like naturally as humans, you're not going to approach someone, and you guys don't come for me for this, but you're not going to approach someone that you're not attracted to. It's like, you know, you're not going to be like, hey, you're ugly, I want to date. Yeah. Hey, you know, like you're not how I want you to look, but I want to date.
But
so,
I'm
like,
here.
Yes.
You know? Yes. And that was the thing. I was like this, and I'm trying to think in my head, I'm holding her, and I remember, and we both looked at each other, and I'm like, she's beautiful, but like none of it made sense. My head was so foggy, and I was like, you're stunning, but you're not somebody I would typically go for, right?
It wasn't like like how you drew her up in your head and in your imagination. It wasn't what you thought she would look like as far as her voice goes.
Yeah. But by far, like, you know, like everybody was beautiful in the show, but like she was like the most beautiful person I could have ever went through that experience with, inside and out. And she read me like this really sweet poem. We hugged, kissed, and then we got separated for like another 24 to 48 hours.
So that initial like meeting each other for the first time, hugging and holding, how long was that?
Like 15 minutes.
Oh wow.
20 minutes.
And then 2 days of not seeing each other.
Yeah, because like you have to prep, you're getting ready for the next thing. They want to make sure that they get everything, you know, for like you guys on
initial,
camera. They want
initial reactions.
And my heart was breaking. I was like, I miss her, I can't contact her, and I'm just like, I can't wait to see her again. And then we go to Mexico and we start clashing there because we get to like build our physical relationship, right?
Right.
With our mental. So it was, you start to learn more about each other. Then you leave there, you move in together in an apartment. Now you're living together, right? And it's like,
and this is a course of how many days?
This whole thing from beginning to wedding takes place in 7 weeks.
That's insane.
Yeah. So we're living together, move her in. I'm like, hey, let's get you organized. I help her hang up her calls and get everything organized. I leave mine a shithole because, like, it's just like, I was like, I just want to make sure you're organized. Because I'm like that. I will, like, my common areas are always clean. Like, if I'm in a relationship, like, their stuff's always organized and clean. Like, and my stuff is organized clean, like, once every, like, 2 weeks. Because I don't really care. Like, I'm never in my room anyway, so. But I remember them filming, and then they're like, oh, wow, gee, your stuff looks so organized. And I'm like,
I did it.
And then, like, Dame, let's see your closet. And it's like, it's right ahead. I was like, you don't understand. We just got here, you know?
Right.
So, like, you started running these little things and play on words. The thing that hurt most, I think, when we were living together, like, we'd already had, like, a physical relationship. And Gina was like, do you remember how you always say it's the best sex of your life? And I never returned the compliment. And they aired that. And it was like when we saw it together for the first time, I was like, it just hit really hard. And I was like, you know what? Like, I was in the bedroom, she was in the kitchen, and we were trying to reenact the pod scenes because we were having a clash and we couldn't figure out what it was. Right. So we're like, maybe if we take out talking to each other in person and we separate and go into our own places, then we can figure this out. And she said that shit on live camera. And I was like, okay, look, I get it. But also, that could have been a private conversation.
Absolutely.
And that sort of hurt. But what I will say is after that aired, I had a lot of people reaching out. I'm dealing with the same problems in my marriage, in my relationship. How did you handle this? And instead of me being cocky and a dick, I hugged her and I said, hey, I'm sorry. Let's figure out what's wrong in this part of the relationship, and I'll get better at it.
Yeah, a solution, not another problem.
Why is it not great for you? Why is it great for me? And I knew why it was great for me, right? So I was like, but I said at the same time, I was like, we gotta work on this together. So long story short, I started taking a lot of attention to detail into her and like relationships. And for me, that was a turning point of how I treated a woman in the bedroom or like behind the scenes. And for me, it became, I did research. I started like taking classes, understanding like how female anatomy worked, because I was like, never again, will I let the girl I'm with feel like I'm not just good enough, but there's something better she's had before me. Right. So it was sort of an ego thing, but also like, I want, when you're out, like, it's great. It's fantastic. Like,
Absolutely.
He pleases me, right?
Absolutely.
Beyond just the materialistic things.
Absolutely.
So we did that. We had our wedding. She said, I do. I said, I do not. That was a big fiasco. She never really wanted to get married. She broke up with me 4 times off set, which people never saw.
So you knew mentally in your head, like, this isn't something that she wants, so this is why I'm saying I don't. Yeah.
Well, I also went to see her. We got separated like a few days before the wedding, so like we could talk to our family and friends and like figure out, like, this is a big decision, right? We had our marriage certificate, so if we said I do, we are actually married.
Right.
And you have to go to the altar. Like, you're through the process, like, you got to make it there, right? So I went to see her like 2 days before the wedding. She said she was working late. I got there. I was bringing her flowers and all that stuff to like, hey, everything's going to be okay. And the mall closes at 9. I'm not an idiot. It's 10 o'clock. You're not shutting down a kiosk for an hour at a mall, right? I've seen you close 30 times. So she was out there with a guy, which happened to be your ex-boyfriend, talking to him. And I was like, yeah, I didn't say anything to her. And 45 minutes later, which the only reason I went there is because I lived an hour south. She lived 45 minutes north of Atlanta. So it was like an hour and 45 minute trek sometimes to see her. So I was like, hey, like, and I stayed in Atlanta because if I was going to meet her house afterwards, I might as well just come see her at work and knock it out. That way, if like we were going back to our own houses that night, we knew. And that sort of hurt, but it also felt like I was invading her privacy. But I was like, at the same time, I was like, I just want to bring you flowers, let you know everything's going to be okay. We're literally engaged and getting married in 2 days.
Right.
So it was a sweet gesture in my head. And then I come off and I'm like, you know what? Like, honestly, that could have been like just too much. Like, she needed that time. But I never said anything about it because I was like, it didn't matter.
So she never knew that you saw her.
Yeah.
At that moment.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then like an hour later, she's like, hey, I'm back home. Like, can you come see me? And talk to me. I went back to her house and talked to her. And
so you never knew what happened like with the ex-boyfriend?
No. And they had been broken up for like a year and a half. So for me, it was just, and he came up in conversation a lot. Like, it was somebody she loved. And I got to meet him later on. And me and him were like actually friends now. So we see each other out. We hang out. Like, we drink together, like, so, like, me and him actually get along really well. He's a great guy. But I went to her house and she was like, hey, like, you know, like, this is a lot on me and my family. Like, I want to be with you, but I can't marry you. Like, my family pretty much just told me. And I was like, I don't want that. Like, I want a healthy relationship. You still haven't gotten to meet my family, right?
Right.
And that was a big thing, too. It's like, my family wanted to meet her, just not on camera. They're like, we don't want our life out there, like, which is totally understandable. I signed up for this. They didn't. And I said, look, she goes, I just, like, I can't get up there and, like, I don't know what's going to happen, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say. I said, the day of the wedding, I said, do what you need to protect yourself. I'll do what I need to protect us. And they were supposed to ask me first. I thought, like, will you take her to be your wife? And I was like, so. And I really didn't know what I was gonna do till the moment of, because like I did want to marry her. Like I loved her so much. And when she said I do, like I felt everything fall apart. And I took it as a defense mechanism. I was like, her family's all there, like, and I know like they're very strict, and so is my family on like old values. Like if we're gonna do this, meet the families, hang out with this kid to know who you really are. You just met this guy. You just met this guy 7 weeks ago on a show. You know what I mean? You're engaged, and now you're getting married because you feel like you have to. And I didn't want to put her in a situation when she'd already been through so much, and I had to. So I said I do not. And then she ended up not leaving. We got in a big fight, blowout, and I was like, this sucks, because like I really like I was in love with her, and we ended up meeting up after that and spent the night together. Her bachelorette squad and my groom, like my groomsmen, they all went out and partied together. Me and her stayed the night together and talked and hung out, and then we did it for like a year and a half, 2 years after that, until after the altar. So
when you guys got to after the altar and you came in with someone else,
Francesca,
how did Francesca get in the picture?
So me and Francesca had the same management team.
Okay.
We went on this little tour together, and then I came out here for some work stuff in LA, and we were at dinner, walk out, paparazzi hits us, and Francesca's like, she gets paparazzi wherever she goes. Me, I just done a show, so I wasn't accustomed to paparazzi. I didn't think it was a real thing. I was like, oh, it's fucking funny. Like, okay. And in the pictures that they got, it was on like every headline the next day. It was on TMZ, People, like Daily Planet, like all these things. It was like everywhere, right? So, and they took a picture of us, and it looked like this from afar. So it looked like our hands were holding, but if you looked at it close enough, they were blurred. It was just because we were walking and they crossed. And then Damian and Francesca called holding hands, and Francesca was from Too Hot to Handle season 1, so it was like now Love is Blind, Too Hot to Handle cross, right? And I was like, fuck. Called Jenny, and I was like, look, I'm just letting you know this happened, don't know what's gonna come of it. Next day it's on every paper. She's like, this is embarrassing. My family's like, what the fuck? I was like, zoom in, it's not what it looks like.
And you were still dating her at the time.
I was. And I was like, I'm so sorry, like this was never intentionally meant to hurt you. And Francesca being Francesca was like, this actually isn't bad publicity, it's good. Like, you know, it's not good publicity, but like we didn't do anything, so it's not a big deal. And but I knew it was gonna hurt Giannina, and like her family was calling, her friends were texting, and so I did a public statement saying, hey, me and Francesca are just friends. The picture was misconstrued. Zoom in, you can see. Talked to Giannina about it. She's like, thanks for being honest and upfront. I was like, this is it. It's just a friendship, which it was. And later on, a few months later, Francesca's out in Atlanta, and we're filming after the altar. Me and Giannina had actually broken up probably a month and a half, 2 months after that, which we were already clashing in our relationship.
Francesca came to Atlanta on her own.
Yes, she was doing work stuff. So. And I was like, hey, well, while you're in town, since every time I come to LA, you always introduce me to your friends, I'll introduce you to all mine and my cast and stuff.
Right.
And me and Giannina were only, like, we'd already broken up. We were still, like, talking, like, but it was, like, I'd see her once a week. You know what I mean? And at this point, like, it was her choice to break up, which we said it was going to be mutual. But at the end of the day, like I said, like, I still want to make this work. And she's like, it's just not good for us. And I agreed. And then when it came down to filming after the altar together, I was like, are we going to film together or not? And we're like, if we're broken up, let's, like, this is a good way for us to finalize it. So we did after the altar. We didn't film together on there at all. And I saw her one time during the whole filming of that. Francesca was in town. We hung out. We did our little lunch date thing, which I communicated with Giannina through the whole time. I was like, hey, we're going to lunch today. We're probably going to be a little flirty. It looks good. But also, like, you know, like you and I are together. But I still want you to know what's going on. So I was super transparent. She's like, no, it's fine. Do what you need to. And I was like, this is the first time you're collabing 2 shows too, so like it's sort of cool. I was like, oh, this would be good for all of us.
Right.
I was like, she's gonna come to that after the altar reunion, which was really celebrating the married couples that had stayed together, right? And I was like, I want Francesca to come and meet you because I don't want there to be any animosity. I was like, the picture that was taken, I still want you to know, like.
Did you honestly think that was gonna be a good idea?
I did, yeah. And it
There's
was like
no way you could have possibly.
I knew that there were some risks. I did know there were some risks.
Definitely risks.
But I was transparent about them. I said, look, hey, Giannina said, I'm not a fan of it. Do we need to do this? And I was like, we don't have to. I was like, if you don't want her there, she will not be there.
Yeah. I feel like Francesca's more like, I mean, they're both spicy women, but I feel like Francesca's more like a, okay, I don't care. And then G is more like okay, how is this going to even work?
And I said, well, look, we're not together anymore. This makes sense.
Right.
It could, like I said, and this whole time in the back of your head, you have this thought that Francesca and I hooked up or something happened.
Right.
I was like, I'm willing to bring this girl here to meet you in front of all of my friends and our cast to let you know nothing ever happened. That was my thing. So I was seeing it as I have nothing to hide from you. Right. You thought I was hiding something from you? I'll put it all out on the table right here. And that was like, that's who I am as a person. Like, if I hooked up with you, would I bring you to a event with all my friends and everybody there's no filter?
What if, let's just say nothing happened. What if Francesca was like, okay, I like this guy, so I'm gonna lie and say something did happen to make it be even bigger than what it isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, people there was that
fear, but like me and Francesca had honestly built like this good friendship. Like, we talk on the phone like casually, like we were just like good friends. Like, it was like if I had advice or questions about the industry, like she'd be able to help me with that. So I trusted her, right? And I trusted G, and I was like, look, Francesca goes, well, I'll come on, but I'm not coming on unless Giannina agrees to it. I was like, cool. Giannina agreed to it. Boom, boom, boom. All right, good.
So how was that interaction with the both of them?
Oh, fucking, it hit me in the pit of my stomach. Because I walk in, and Giannina walked in. I was like, the thing people didn't realize is I didn't film anything with Giannina on the show. That's one side, right? I came in with Francesca. I didn't come in with Giannina. Were we still like close friends? Me and Giannina, yes. Were we still talking? Would we hook up occasionally? Yes. But were we broken up? Absolutely. And that's what people didn't know.
Right.
And so for me, I'm like, one, I'm doing a courtesy. I have the right to bring somebody else if I want to. But it wasn't as anything more than a friendship when I brought her. I was like, I literally want to squash this TMZ shit.
Right. You were trying to make it be in favor of what you knew what the truth was.
Yeah. And she knew, but she just couldn't accept it. And I was like, this is how you accept it, confronting it. And they both agreed. They came on. I introduced Francesca to everybody. It was weird because then I saw Giannina and I was like, if we were dating, she would have came up and hugged me and said, hey, babe, good to see you. Right.
Of course.
She didn't do that. I didn't do that. And before we got there, she's like, hey, like, let's pretend sort of like nothing's wrong. Like, we're good. And I'm like, I can't do that if I didn't film with you this whole time.
Right.
I love you. I care about you, but I can't do that. So I introduced Francesca to her last, obviously, because that was a build-up. I mean, there was tension all over that fucking place. And Cameron and Lauren are like,
I can't even imagine.
Lauren's, and I love, like, Cameron and Lauren, I love them. And Lauren's so funny, Lauren Speed. And she's like, Damian, what did you do? And I was like,
I was like, how would he think that's possibly good?
And I felt horrible too, because like, and I told Cameron and Lauren, I was like, hey, I'm bringing Francesca. Like, I want you guys to know, because it really was their anniversary party. And I felt like shit, like, that it turned out the way it did, because it wasn't meant to take away from the couples. This was to solve my own little like demons that were like attacking
bothering
me.
You. Right.
And for the girls, because I was like, I was like, Giannina and Francesca, I felt like we get along great in a world where I wasn't in the picture.
Right.
So, guys are stupid. Okay, we make some stupid fucking choices sometimes. Just so you guys know, I'm admitting that. Okay, I learned from my mistakes, or I try to. It didn't go well. I mean, it was like, actually the first conversation went well. That sort of got ixnayed. A few more drinks in, did not go well. She's like, and then Francesca's like, well, if you weren't in the picture, I'd probably go for him. And Gina's like, that's my fucking man. And I'm like, I'm not actually your man. I was like, you don't have power over me.
Yeah.
Turning this blowout. I'm leaving after the altar, and she's like,
yeah, it's almost like when you have emotions involved, it's hard to not really pour out your emotions when you care for someone.
Yeah.
You know, and then when it's like as people that's been in relationships, you kind of get territorial of what, even if it's not yours, it's like, I'm not the type of person that if I'm like, let's say if I wasn't in a relationship and my friend and me was to go out, right?
Yeah.
And then she's interested in this guy, but this guy ends up talking to me, I'm gonna be like, okay, I don't want conflict with my friend, so I'm not even gonna, there's so many other guys, you know what I'm saying? So it's almost like
there's so many other people, guys and girls, but then there's that one, and you're like, fuck, like, we better fight over this.
Yes, exactly. So. And it's like, you know, again, when there's emotions involved, it's kind of like, well, I had an emotional connection with him being G, and then Francesca's like, I want an emotional connection with him, you know, so it's kind of like it was destined for disaster at that moment, because everything was so fresh with both women.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing too, is like, Francesca's hot, Giannina's hot, right? Like, my love for Giannina was like stupid hard. So like, it was hard bringing her there, but like I said, it was just, I didn't care, because I was like, I have nothing to hide, and you think I'm hiding something, right? And Francesca's like, maybe he didn't tell her, fully disclose everything. And I'm like, and she's like, he didn't tell me y'all were still together. And I'm like, we're not. You know what I mean? So I'm leaving after the altar, and Francesca had already walked out. She's like, I didn't talk to Francesca for almost a year after that. She was like really upset.
So nothing ever happened after that situation where they had that confrontation?
No, first time I saw Francesca after that was was Perfect Match.
Oh, so that was the first time you saw her. So it was,
and talked to her, yeah. So I talked to her briefly like 5 months before. I sent her a message like, hey, I know time's passed. I just want to let you know I'm really sorry for everything that happened. And she just left it on red, which I expected.
Right.
Because I didn't expect for any of that to go down like that. But when I was leaving after the altar, I said something like, I was walking on, everybody gave me shit for this too. And I looked at Janine and I was like, that was bullshit. And they were like, you're a narcissist, gaslighting asshole. And I'm like, what happened in that conversation was, and it's actually like, I just looked at her, she sat on the couch, she's like crying, I'm fucking pissed. And she's like, I said, that was bullshit. And they're like, no, you're bullshit, you did this. She compared me to Mark, saying like, hey, which Mark was in another relationship on like show and got wrapped in this whole throuple thing with other girls. And she said, if I ever found out you did to me what Mark did to these girls, like, I'll never forgive you. And I was like, that's bullshit. Like, never compare me to that. Like, I was loyal to you till the end of our relationship.
Right.
So how things I did or sometimes aren't how they come off. But like, everything I did after the altar came off with like best intentions for both of them. Because I was like, I want you guys to be friends. Like, there's no animosity.
Right.
So that sort of was the end of our relationship. But I did come back. I picked Jeannie up later that night. And we got another big fight. And then she went home. And then we stayed cordial for about 5-6 months after that. We saw each other here and there. I moved into a new place. She came over, hung out. We did content. And then finally at some point we were like, this just isn't healthy. We got to cut it off completely. And then that was the end of that.
So when you got to the perfect match and you saw Francesca, did you automatically think now's the time to kind of like explore that option and get to know her?
Yeah, so that was interesting. The perfect match was a crazy setup. And if I wouldn't have done what I did on After the Altar, I would have probably never been on Perfect Match. It wouldn't have made sense.
Right.
And I think Giannina was actually supposed to go on there, is what I heard. And somebody said that G may be on the show, and I was like, well, she's on there. I don't want to fucking be on there. But, I mean, I would have done it anyways, because I got to the point where I was like, fuck everyone. So,
yeah.
And I wanted other people to see a different side of me, too, when I did Perfect Match. On Love is Blind, you see, like, the very emotional, like, people pleaser Damian. And that's who I am. If I'm in a relationship, I will take care of you. Like, you don't have to get up out of bed if you're not feeling good. Like, I will go to the store at 3 a.m. for you. If you have a flat tire, I'll drive 4 hours to get it. You're stuck somewhere. Like, I am very old school in traditions when I believe, like, taking care of your partner is, like, very important as a man's role. But also giving you your independence. Like,
absolutely.
My girl can go out on girls' nights, have fun, text me, let me know you're safe, let me know when you're home safe.
Absolutely.
Right? I love you, I trust you. Do your thing, right?
Right.
You can hug other guys. Your ex-boyfriend can be in the same room. I have this, I'm going to shake his hand, but hey, man, nice to meet you.
Right.
Sorry, you're lost.
Sorry,
you're lost. But I went on After the Altar, and it was a blind date. I had no idea it was going to be Francesca, and she was like...
And she had no idea either.
No, well, I mean, she did, because she, on the show, she picked to go... She was in a relationship with Dom on there.
Yeah, I remember.
And then she chose me because we had this unspoken history. Mm-hmm. And then I think she also wanted, like, clarification, like, did I do what I did on After the Altar for me, or did I do it in good intentions?
Right.
And I think she always questioned that, which it was for good intentions. And get on the day, she puts her hands behind me, she's like, guess who? And there's actually somebody else on the show I was really hoping that would be on there, which was Georgia Hazarati, which me and her are like super close now. And I thought I was about to say Georgia, and then I heard her voice again. I was like, Francesca, and I was like, it blew my mind. And I turned around and I was like, fuck. So we did our little beach date, and she's like, hey, it's between you and this other guy in the house. I've been dating this guy. I like him, but something's missing. You know, he's like too nice. And I'm like, I've always been that guy. I've always been too nice. Right. And I'm like, well, everybody thinks we did something anyway, so now's the time to fucking figure it out.
Right.
So I just grabbed her. I was like, I mean, I was respectful. I was like, hey, like, I want to kiss you. I'm just going to tell you. And then I just kissed her.
Just see if there's a spark there.
I was like,
after all this time.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm already here with you. You just chose to go on a date with me over somebody you've been dating for a week or two in this house. And I was like, that says a lot. And at this point, like, my relationship with Giannina is completely dead, right? So I'm like, you know.
And you didn't know Dom at all. Because he was on a whole nother show.
I'd never met anybody in that house except my cast members that came in later on from Love is Blind.
So it wasn't no, like, Netflix prior to.
Nope.
red carpets that you knew anybody else from. It was just solely Francesca.
No, because I'm out of Atlanta. So, like, everybody that's out in LA, like, they've all met or done their collab stuff. I never, like, came out here for that, really, except one time. And that was when I got wrapped in that scandal, so.
So, when Francesca ended up, like, you know, choosing you over Dom, how was that, like, when you met Dom? Like, what was your interaction?
So, actually, when I walked into the house with Francesca, we're standing at the door, and we're, like, before we got there, we're like holding hands, we're kissing.
You guys talk about like how the house was gonna be?
She was telling me about it, yeah. She was giving me sort of inside scoop. She's like, it's gonna be weird. I said, look, I'm not gonna go in here happy, jolly, holding your hand, like kissing you, because the stage went really well.
Right.
But I was sitting there thinking, I was like, part of me wanted to do it, just to be like, I want like people to see the other side of me, but I'm also like, I don't want to, like, whoever this guy is probably gonna fucking hurt.
Right.
If she chooses me, she still has time to change her mind.
Right. And
I walk in and I meet Dom and I'm like, wow, like, I was like, this kind of guy I'd be good buddies with. Like, love his energy. Like, right when I met him, we talked for a second. I had no idea it was him. And I'm talking to this guy and he's like giving me like fuck you energy, but also like, I'm like, you seem cool, bro. Like, I don't know the problem. And they're like, that's him. That's the guy that she's been dating. And I'm like, oh fuck. And I'm over here trying to be like best friends with the dude.
Right.
Long story short, me and her start hitting it off. She chooses me. He ends up going up with Georgia. And that's the thing too, is like, perfect match was just the concept makes sense, but it's also crazy. It's
very
just like,
different than Love Is Blind. Very no commitment type of situation where it's kind of like you have an opportunity to match with whoever, whenever. Secret match, you know, all types of stuff going on that you
I can be making out with you 1 second and then the next second I'm over here going upstairs with the next girl and I'm like, I like you a lot, and this girl's like, I like you, and I'm like, well, I've liked you, now let's see what's here. Right,
where it's like, did you kind of put yourself in a position to open up yourself
we call that the Bartiz. That's what we call that.
Poor Bartiz.
Poor Bartiz, love you, buddy.
But so you I mean, like, when you were in that situation, did you know, all right, at the end of this, it's going to be Francesca, or did you think like, okay, you know, maybe I can do Georgia.
Yeah.
I want to say Georgina, but yeah, Georgia. And like, how was your mental on that, knowing that it could change any given moment?
So it was really crazy because I was also, there's an original cast that comes into the house. Then other people have to be voted in, or like, AK, like you're going on a date with somebody.
Or get chosen in. Yeah.
I was the only guy that entered that house that never left. That wasn't part of the original group, which was like Joey, Dom, right? And I remember me and Francesca were having like, I kept hearing like whispers of her, like, when I was behind the scenes with her, we were like, great. Like, I like you, like, very comforting. I gave her sort of that emotional thing, but like Francesca also needs like somebody that's like gonna put her in her fucking place, like.
Right.
But she's like, what I will say about Francesca that people don't know is she is like actually like a really great human, but she knows what she's doing, right? So for me, I was like I hear things and I'm like, oh, like my heart smiles. I'm like, oh, I wanted to hear that. I've been waiting on that. So, but then I was also like, you know what? Like, she could leave me like she left Dom,
right?
Like that. So she goes up to take a nap one day. Dom goes on a date. I'm out of the pool with Georgia. I'm with Bartiz and Izzy, and we're talking. And he's like, "Oh, like, hey, do you have anything for someone?" And Georgia comes up. She's like, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "We're chilling. I'm sitting in the water." Then I start giving her a foot massage, and it was so funny because like some people don't expect, but like I like nice feet. Like I have respect for it. I don't have like a foot fetish, but if you have nice feet, like yeah, I'll give you a foot massage. I don't care. So that's just a random fact because everybody asks me about it. I love giving massages. I was a part-time masseuse in college too. So like if I'm dating somebody, I'm big on like giving them. I'll give you a full body massage for like an hour before we go to bed. So so I'm out there, we're talking, and she's like. And Izzy's like, so do you have a crush on somebody else in the house? And I'm like, I started smiling. And George's like, oh, you do. Who is it? And Bartiz starts laughing. He already knows. And I'm like, no, I can't say it. And she's like,
and this the whole time you were with Francesca.
Yeah, Francesca's upstairs sleeping. Dom's on a date. And I'm like, no, I said it would like create some like weird tension for the next few weeks in the house if all this works out.
And they're like besties on the show.
And George is like, no, you have to tell me. And I'm like, and she's like, what? And I'm like,
it's you, girl.
And she's like, what? And I was like, it's you. And she goes, oh, fuck, Damian, you know. And
And
I
she's
was
just like a little sweetheart.
yeah, and I'm like, look, I said, if things don't work out with Francesca, I said, I'm just telling you, I'm coming for you. And she's like, no, why'd you tell me this?
Yeah.
And I was like, you just asked like 5 times. Like, yeah, of course I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you. And mine and George's energy is like amazing together. Like, I love it. Like, we get up every morning, like, we're like each other's hype, guys, girls, like, always in a good mood, always happy to be around her. And, you know, I was also like, I felt like something was missing with her and Dom's relationship. Like, they were good. I just feel like it wasn't like
Where you guys could be.
yeah. And I was like, you know what? And I like we talked, we laughed, we had a good talk. And she's like, Damian, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know if we should say something. I was like, I'll handle it. This isn't on you. This is on me. Went upstairs, woke Francesca. I was like, hey, I need to talk to you. She's like, you know, like I had a conversation with Georgia in the pool, and I told her if things don't work out between us, I'm coming for her. And I was like, I like you. I think there's potential here. I want to grow with you, but also don't know if I'm the next Dom. I was like, so, and I need to keep my options open. And we talked about this. And she was like,
She was definitely not expecting that.
no, she wasn't happy about it.
Yeah.
But she also respected it. She's like, look, I get it. Like, but this is the same girl that took the last guy she was with. So then it's
Right.
like, now, like, there's Damian. So, and I was like, I like you. I was like, I'm going to give you attention. You're the only girl in the room when I'm with you. I was like, but I want you to know, like, I'm here to find a connection and love.
Right.
And if that isn't with you, it needs to be with somebody else. Because when I do these shows, I go on pure intentions. Like, I actually do. I'm not coming on a show if I'm in a relationship or dating somebody, right?
Right.
I'm not coming on a show to be like, oh, this is what everybody wants.
And you initially already had Georgia mentally in your head, like, this is who I'm going for.
I just watched her season, and I was like, God, I was like, that is a girl I would date. But I was a big fan for Australians, too. Like, I love Australians. Like, I was like, you know, I love the accent, I love the energy. I've traveled all around the world. I've partied with them. Like, I just have, like, such good chemistry with them. Like, and Harry Jousey, same thing. Like, that's Francesca's ex. I feel like me and Harry didn't like each other because
And George's.
yeah, fuck yeah.
I'm like, and George's.
So yeah, it's funny because I feel like me and Harry sort of had this unspoken like didn't like each other. I'm like, fuck you, Harry. He's like, fuck you, Damian, because of Francesca. I got and it's funny because like when I watched Too Hot to Handle, I loved Harry and Francesca on there. I was like, oh, my little chicken nuggets made it. You know what I mean? So. And then like I started to hear things like, you know, Harry was like, people were like, oh, he doesn't really like you, he doesn't fuck with you. I'm like, he's never met me.
Oh, you guys have never met.
We hadn't at the point.
Oh,
We've
okay.
met now, yeah. And when we first met the first few times out of public, it was like, hey, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. First time I really met him was with Georgia when they were dating at a red carpet event. And I was
So
like,
how was that interaction? That was
well,
before the show, though.
after.
After the show.
Yeah, because I didn't know Georgia before the show. I just knew her from TV. But we'll circle back real quick. I told Francesca she wasn't happy. Georgia's like, this is going to be weird. And I was like, no, I'm going to take care of it. So did that. Ended up dating Francesca the whole show. She left me for a girl, Abby. Love Abby to death. Me and Abby sort of didn't like each other at first. I'm like, yeah, you just stole my girl. That sucks. And she goes, she walks out of the kitchen Abby goes, how do you feel I just stole your girl? I was like, same way you're going to feel when I steal her back. You know?
How was that situation to be like, okay, now I got to compete with this girl. Now it's
I
like,
was fucked, honestly. I was like, you know what? I was like, this is just my fucking life. And it's so funny because people, like, you'll read the comments, like, how does this guy end up with these girls? Like, how do they even have an interest in Damian? And they seem like, well, he's better looking in person. He's got a good personality. Like, I am a good person. I have really good intentions. And I'm that friend you can't take anywhere, but you can't go anywhere without. Like, I have a lot of fun at events and parties. But TV really, like, can limit the sides that people see. And Abby's like, oh, yeah. And then I started flirting with Abby. I was like, all right, fuck it. Like, you know, so
you're thinking, like, let me get the 2-for deal instead of just.
And I was like, but this isn't me. But it was bringing out a side of me. I was like, you know what? Fuck
now
this.
you're in, like, competitive state. Like, all right, this is my angle of how I'm going to go about it. Let me try to talk to Abby to see if I can get Francesca. And then maybe I can get both.
Yeah, so we're in the pool. And, you know, I was talking to Francesca. And I was like, look, I want you to be happy. I said, if it's not me and it's her, do it. I was like, be happy. And I went up that stairs when I was like, I just don't know what to do. I said, you can have us both. She goes, what? I was like, yeah, you can have me and Abby. And she goes,
how was her reaction?
She was like, what? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I like you. I said, I can build a relationship with you. I know, like, you being able to, like, be involved with, like, you know, both parties is, like, something that is important to you. I was like, I'm not accustomed to it. I've never had a 3-way in my life. I've always been one-on-one. To this day, I've never had a 3-way. I've never been with 2 girls at once. And that was something that she was open about. She's like, hey, this is something that, like, I would like to have in a relationship. And I said...
Right, I remember that.
And I was like, I'm not accustomed to that.
So was that something that you had to kind of, like, think about? Like, all right, am I going to do this because I really like this person and I want to see where it's going to go? So I'm opening myself up to giving her what she wants ultimately.
Yeah, because you
But
deserve to be happy.
is it almost something that like you wanted as well too? Like maybe it's some secret fantasy that I feel like all.
I think
guys,
everybody has that fantasy.
Yeah, like all guys, it's like, okay, why wouldn't I have
But I'm
two
very-
girls if I'm able to have two girls?
Yeah, and that's so it's an interesting kind. I mean, obviously, it's like it's something everybody thinks about, and everybody I know, guy wise, that like are in my friend group have had 3-ways, and I'm like, me, I've become so big, and that's the biggest thing about me now. After the thing with Giannina in the house, I made a vow that if she doesn't come, I don't come. So like, my thing now is like I take care of my girl or my woman or whoever I'm dating. Like I take care of you first, unless like
Right.
we're in the relationship far enough where you're just like, hey, I want to do this for you.
Right.
But like, if you don't come, I don't come. That's my rule.
Right.
And it's worked great now. Like, and it's like, because like girls deserve to be pleased too. I won't even sleep with a girl on the first date. Like,
Right.
it's like, for me, I'm like, I'll take care of you, but I'm not hooking up with you. Like, it's okay for you to be taken care of.
Right.
And girls like, oh, that's probably such bullshit. But like, you know, people are like, no, like
That's your character.
That's me now.
Right, right,
and
right.
and now I get turned on by turning somebody else on. So for me, it's like,
Right.
I'm good. Yeah, for me, I was like, I had to accept that, and I was like, if I like her enough, I have to be willing to like accept this and accept her for who she is. Otherwise, I don't need to be with her.
So how did Abby feel about that conversation?
Not good. She was
Right.
like, the fuck? And I was like, yeah. That's what Abby too. I was like, look, she can have both of us. I don't care. And then Abby before her, she's like, oh, okay. But also Abby's like, when she's with somebody, she wants to be with them. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, Francesca sort of gave me a sign. I started dating Ines in the house. And that was great. I really liked Ines a lot. Like, I will say Ines is a very beautiful soul. Her and I have so much ground. Like, we both want a very loving relationship.
Right.
But I'd invested so much time with Francesca back and forth. I was like, I need to see this through. And I told Ines when we hooked up that night, I was like, because Francesca was on borderline, am I going to take you, Damian? She goes, I don't know what I want to do. Damian, like, I don't know if I want you or if I want to go with Abby. And I said, what you just said was enough for me. I'm going to make your decision very simple. I said, tonight you're going to go with Abby or you're going with nobody. I said, because I'm not going to be a second option. I said, I will be a priority. I was like, and you deserve the same. So I was like, even if you ask me to be your match tonight, I will not.
So she was like, okay, well, now I'm kind of stuck.
Because
with who I have to
what
go.
I knew is she was battling her mind. She didn't want to hurt my feelings.
Right.
I was like, I'll be fine.
Right. Because
You
you're
did-
already talking to.
No, I
Ines
wasn't. I wasn't talking
at
to her
that
yet.
time. Okay.
Yeah.
You weren't.
This is like 45 minutes before me and Ines like connected.
Got it.
And I was like, you need to figure this out. I was planning on going home that night. I was like, even if you ask me to be your match now, I will not. I was like, figure this out because I don't want this being a question in the back of your mind.
Right.
What if I fucked up? What if I picked her instead of Damian?
Absolutely.
I was like, I don't want that. If you're picking me, I want you to pick me and know that I'm it, right? She's like, okay. That worked out. Her and Abby are talking in the living room. I go talk to Nash. She's like, I'm so tired of like being everybody's second choice. This fucking sucks. I was like, hey, you're preaching in the choir.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? What if tonight we're priorities? We make each other a priority and we go up together. And she's like, wait, what? What about you and Francesca? I was like, don't worry about that. What if we do that? And then I just grabbed her and kissed her and we started making out. And I was like, wow, that was really good. I was like, will you be matched tonight? She's like, yeah. Or she asked me. And we went upstairs, walked past Francesca, and that one was a great feeling. I was like, look, you made your option, I made mine. Me and Ines dated for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. I had a great relationship. I loved it. The problem was I did tell her, I was like, look, I still like Francesca. I was like,
Right.
and I gave a lot of her to me before we got to this point. And if she wants me back, I'm going to have to finish it. And that was hard. Because what I should have done was stay with Ines because I felt like we would have had a great relationship. But through the whole
She was a
show,
sweetheart, too.
yeah, she is, and I love her to death. Like, there's nothing I wouldn't do for Ines. But the whole time too, like it was Georgia. Like in the back of my head, I was like, me and Georgia have like these flirtatious locking
It was
eyes.
almost like everyone was like second option for you.
But I couldn't like. There was no way for me to pursue that
Right.
without like. And Georgia wasn't gonna hurt Dom. You know, she wasn't gonna fuck up and like do something else to hurt Francesca. She had just gotten back where her and Francesca were okay again.
Right.
So I was like, well, that's dead. Like, even though I wanted to pursue something there. And I loved our friendship too. Like, Georgia will be one of my like friends till the day I die. But the Ness thing hurt. Like, when Francesca's like, I want you back, I was like, okay. And I was like, and I told Ness, I was like, I can't be with you when I'm thinking about Francesca. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to me. I was like, I have to finish this before I could even pursue this.
Right.
And she goes, I understand. She goes, I'm leaving the house. So Ness left. Francesca, what's going on? I was like, I told her straight up, I was like, I can't stop thinking about you, and if you don't pick me tonight, I'm leaving. I don't want to be here anymore. And that's how we ended up starting dating again, and then we went to the point. I also felt like there was a little bit of like, maybe she was seeing somebody outside of this, maybe she wasn't. I didn't know. That's why I asked her to be my girlfriend. I was like, I'm not going into the finale with you to be the perfect match if we're not even boyfriend girlfriend.
Right.
So I asked her to be my girlfriend. It was like 70%. I thought she was going to say no. 30%, maybe a possible yes. But I was like, we literally have 2 days left here, and if we're going to be anything outside of this, like, I want to solidify it now because I'll make the effort. I will come see you. I will make things happen. And she said no. And I was like, and at this point, they were like, well, there's other people in here that are interesting because now the whole cast was in the house, and I was like,
right.
It was Francesca or nothing. I'm not gonna.
At this point, it's pointless.
I've done Love Is Blind, the fastest dating process you could ever do.
Right.
I've spent the last 5 weeks with Francesca. I was like, I'm not gonna go build a connection and become a perfect match with somebody in 5 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm going home. So I left, and then that was the end of that.
And so where is Damian now? Is he dating? Is he single? Is he on the sidewalk? Is he in the street? Where are you at?
Always in the streets, apparently. No, so I moved from Atlanta to here about 2.5 months ago. Just sort of give it a shot. I've had like a few, like, not relationships, just like, well, not a few, just like 2. I like little fling things out here, which I liked, but turned out like just to be like crazy toxic. And I'm like,
right.
Like, I like toxicity. That's my fucking devil. Like,
you like spicy.
I like spicy.
The
Yeah, maybe
girls
not
that you
toxic.
deal
I like a little bit of
spicy.
toxic, but I like spicy. I like somebody that like is confident, but also is like, this is my man, right?
Right.
I like a girl that can go out, and I'm her man even when I'm not there.
Right. As it should be.
And I started talking to somebody recently, sort of unexpected, and then that's been like a back and forth unspoken thing. We went public with it for a second, like, which was weird. It wasn't even, I deleted it like 5 hours later. So, and I like her a lot. A great girl. Like I said, when we're one-on-one, amazing energy, but also like she's still doing her whole thing. She's like, till you ask me to be your girlfriend, like, I'm doing my thing.
Right.
And I'm like, but I was like, I can't ask you to be my girlfriend when you're doing your thing and you're not like
committed to you.
Committed. So,
right.
And that's sort of where the line has been for me. But an amazing girl, and we're trying to sort of figure out if we're going to do anything with that. But so technically, yes, I'm single. But I do want a relationship. I do want something real. But LA is a different breed for me. I'm from South Georgia, you know. So
yeah, LA is definitely different than Atlanta or anywhere in the South. There's not the hospitality that the South has in here is not the same.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's not the same.
I shook a girl's hand a few weeks ago, and I was like this. I was like, hey, let me see your hand. I was like, nice to meet you. I'm Damian. She goes, no, like this. And
like
I was
hard, like
I was like,
stern,
okay. So next time I met a girl in LA, she's like,
why is your handshake?
I was like, well, I can't win, you know. So
everyone's different. I just feel like LA is such a big melting pot of so many different, you know, women, men, and it's dating in LA is very different than dating in the South, 110%.
Yeah.
And you know,
but I like it too. I'm like the caliber of like women out here, like, and it's sort of funny when I moved from Atlanta in May out here. I didn't tell anybody I was moving. None of my friends. I've been in Atlanta in the city for the last 5 years. I built great foundations there. I was curious. I was like, who will realize that I'm even missing? Because I sort of squirreled away my last month in Atlanta. And I had maybe two people reach out to me in 3 months. And then now everybody's like, whoa, where's Damian? Bro, where are you at? You haven't been home. I'm like, I moved to LA. Like,
months ago.
Yeah. So it really puts in perspective of like, I wasn't growing there. I had plateaued. I hadn't worked in like 3-4 years. I really lived off savings from my previous jobs. And traveled and just did what I wanted to. And then I was like, I've been out in LA and I've met great connection. Mitchell Eason, like, that's who I met you. Yeah. And he's, you know, he flipped my whole mindset of like what LA is compared to what I thought LA was.
Yeah.
And there's so many great people out here.
Yes.
Definitely potential relationships out here. It's just like, I'm like,
you just gotta weave through all the BS that is out here.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like, now it's like, when you do date somebody, it's like, if they're not in our field, if they don't have a large following, if they're not on a TV show, if they're not a millionaire, like all these things, like, I have dated like just regular girls, and I don't mean if it's that, like I love like just a good relationship. I like a private relationship, not like Christian Grey shit, like where I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
here's your contract, sign it.
Right.
I like something where it's like we can grow, and then I'll go public with you. If I'm in a relationship, I will go public with you. I don't care.
I honestly feel like initially your relationship should be private anyways, until you both decide on making it public.
And some people get mad about that.
Yeah, and that's it's because of where you came from, you know, like reality TV. Even with myself, like I did reality TV with my relationship, and that's where I got engaged and proposed to. And it was like, now it's like, oh, you're having a kid. What's your kid's name? You know, then you got to sign all these NDAs for your baby shower because you can't release it or show that you're at the baby shower because it hasn't aired, or, you know, things like that, where it's almost like your life is on hold. And then when it's public, it's all the way public. Like the world knows about
Super
it, you know,
public.
where it's like, what if I want to keep that to myself? You know, so I think that like the privateness of relationships, for as long as you can keep it like that, like protect your, you know, your household, your relationship, because it's when it gets out there, it's like there's the vultures are coming, and you know, the people that are hating, or the people that might not want you to be happy, or whatever that may be. So I just feel like keeping your personal relationship private for as long as you possibly can is like the best thing you could do for your
And that's where I feel like the best relationships come from. And the problem is I started after the altar, like the summer after I went out to Charleston, South Carolina, met this girl through a mutual friend. Unexpectedly, like went on a date, hit it off. I was going back to Charleston like every weekend. I was driving and flying out there. And like started to like fall in love with this girl. Something happened when I both got drunk. She was at the bar with another guy all over and didn't know I was there. And I was like, the fuck? I came out here for you, right? So, and she was at a concert. So, long story short, we break up. I was like, fuck this. I drove back from Charleston the next day with my buddy. And the next day she makes a fucking TikTok about our entire relationship.
Oh, wow.
It got like 100,000 views in like 30 minutes. Everybody sent it to me. And it's like, and it was like pointing to like my ex Janina and Francesca, because the show had just aired. The After the Altar had just aired that day or the day before. And she's like, don't worry, sweetheart. I was once his everything too. Pointing to both of them. And they showed all of our like relationship stuff. And I was like, what the fuck, man? And it broke me. I was like, this is what my life's come to. Like, I can't date somebody without there being alternative intentions. Like, did you date me the last 3 months to build up for that TikTok?
Right.
To grow your audience?
Yeah.
You know, she's got hundreds of thousands of followers on there now. And she was just a normal girl from Charleston, South Carolina.
Insane.
Great girl. You know, we talked about it later. She took it down. And I was like, well, it doesn't matter now. It's out there, but it sucks.
Right.
Started talking to another girl. Same thing. Made a TikTok. Right after I was like, what the f?
Like, it's almost like you have to go back to the pod life and just like talk to the girl before even like interacting the way that you would want to interact.
Yeah, and now the funny thing is now I'm like, maybe I do need to date somebody in my field, an influencer, or like a social media person or celebrity. Like, I can't process it because it's like
I just have to find someone that their intentions and motives are just genuinely pure about who you are, not what you do or what you've been on, you know?
Yeah. So. And then now I'm doing OnlyFans. God forbid. No, I'm just kidding. No, I did. I started OnlyFans, and you know, I started like, I've had people reach out to me on there, and they're like, oh, like, hey, would you want to go on a date? I'm like, I'm not going on a date with somebody that I've had on OnlyFans. You know what I mean? So, but I did like an OF like show recently or whatever, and that'll be coming out soon. But it was really cool because I got to meet like other creators from OnlyFans. Oh, nice. And I was like, these people are really great. Now I have like
a whole nother group of people to interact with.
Well, not like that. Not OF interactions. But it is funny because like I was like, wow, these creators are also like in the same mindset I am. Like, you're able to do this, create another source of income. But, like, a lot of people dictate like people that are on OnlyFans is like, oh, like porn, right? That's not what it is. It's like, it can be anything you want it to be. But for me, it was like, it's created some blocks because like I started talking to a girl out here and then she's like, oh my God, I heard you had no F. And I'm like, I do, yeah. And then she's like,
well, like, what kind of content are you putting out?
Well, you know, I'll show you. I was like, but go subscribe. No, I'm just kidding. Look, we got here now.
So if you guys want to know what content he's putting out, go subscribe to his OnlyFans. Yeah,
go subscribe, guys. It's good content.
Speaking of perfect game, Dirty Minds. I play with everyone that comes on the show. And I feel like I've done all of them, so I'm going to let you pick 3 cards. I'm going to put them in 3 piles.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I've never done this game before.
Okay. So I'm going to describe to you a word. Pick 3 cards, hand them to me. You can shuffle them however you want to go about it. I'm going to describe a word, and you're going to guess what that word is.
You had to do this after I had a full drink. Oh, wait, so I just pick any card out of
any card.
Okay, I'll do one from each deck.
Don't look at the card, just hand it to me. Okay.
I feel like I'm going to get none of these correct.
You'll be fine.
I'm under the influence, so...
Okay, are you ready? Even if I'm small, I can handle a threesome.
That'd be the first one I gave you.
Some people aren't capable of getting me erect. It's okay to fall asleep while you're inside of me. After you get me up, you should tie me down. When it starts to get wet, you should come inside me.
A tent.
Good job.
You know what I wanted to say, though. That's good.
Some people try to plunge into me without getting their head wet. Using long, smooth strokes while you're inside of me will get you somewhere. You can use your long noodle in me. Coming me too quickly could give you goosebumps. If I don't get pumped regularly, it's not healthy.
Toilet.
No. One more guess. You can use your long noodle in me is a good one.
Pool.
A pool.
Okay.
It was the noodle one that gave it for me. All right.
That was hard.
Last but not least.
These are dirty. Your mind goes like, your mind literally sets up every dirty thing you could think of before you get to the answer.
So what they call it is it's the dirtiest, cleanest game. So you're describing a clean word in a dirty way.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? If you get me toasted, I'll get harder for you. You can stick your hot salami in me. If you shoot too much sauce in me, I could drip all over your face. If I'm too thick, it takes 2 hands to stick me in. If I'm uncut, I may be too big for you to handle.
A toaster?
No, close. You're in the realm. You can stick your hot salami in me.
An oven?
No. A sandwich.
Oh, okay.
I was like, that was the
I was thinking of like 2 hands to push in like a bagel, like in the morning. I'm like trying to...
for the toaster. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
So tell everybody what you have going on, where they could find you, all that good stuff.
So I am working on some new projects. I am hopefully going to be seen on another show soon. I'm working on a few things, but should be exciting, entertaining. I'm glad for you guys to finally get to see another side of Damian. And now I'm establishing my grounds in LA, so I'm sure I'll be seeing like a lot of people out, which is exciting. I've made really great connections, you and a lot of other people here in the industry, where it's opened a lot of doors. So I'm really excited about that. But you can find me on social media at Damian__Powers. OnlyFans is Damian Powers. And I'm on every other platform. I'm trying to get on the Threads kick. It's taking a minute, but
You like Threads?
It's different. I like it because I can be, I don't know, like Twitter's pretty harsh, right? Yeah. So it's nice that you can sort of like feed your thoughts, and it's just like, I feel like Threads is a cleaner version of Twitter.
Yeah. And I feel like too, I like the fact that it connects to Instagram, but I don't like the fact that it connects to Instagram, because it's like if you delete Threads, your Instagram's deleted too.
So I heard about that, and I've had like 4 girlfriends with like high followings like call me, and like 2 of them are like, I can't believe this. I swear my ex deleted my Instagram. I've got my shit paid to be deleted, and I'm like, that's fucked. And then I'm realizing, I was like, do you have Threads? They're like, no, I deleted it.
That's why.
And I'm like, they're like pissed, like fucking going after. They're like having hitmans on like their ex's social medias, and I'm like, I think you deleted your own Instagram.
Yeah.
So be careful with that.
Yeah.
If you have a Threads, do not delete it. Just delete the app or delete the content. Do not delete your Threads.
Yes, don't delete your Threads. Tune into everything that Damian has going on. Follow him on Instagram. Follow him and subscribe to his OnlyFans so you can see what he's posting on there. And that is it.
And subscribe to Telli Talks.
Yes.
Great podcast. Great
Thank
opportunity
you.
to learn more knowledge, and obviously to meet more people that you don't know about. And
get to know them for who they are and from their perspective.
yeah, we love it.
And that's it for Telli Talks.